Hello. Welcome to the COVID Can't Cancel Love Virtual Summit. I am your host, Natasha Oates. I'm an award-winning therapist and speaker, and we are excited that you made the small investment so that you can really focus on your relationship being even stronger after we get through this pandemic. I'm so excited that this is the start, the kicker off of our summit. It is Dead End Communication, Dead End Disagreements. We are going to talk about how in the world do you maneuver when there is dead end disagreements happening in the household, right? Because you can't go to the mall like you used to escape. You can't go to church like you used to escape, or even work. So everything is right here, but it is an opportunity for you to really plug in and address these unresolved issues in your relationships to be stronger than ever. So I'm really excited to have with us today Dr. Laura Lewis of Atlanta Couple Therapy. She is an amazing psychologist and relationship expert. She has a specialty in couples communication as well as healing after betrayal. So we are excited to have her in here tonight to answer, what do we do? What does it even look like getting beyond these dead end disagreements? What's step A to step Z? Maybe you've been hitting your head up against the wall, like I've been trying, but it just doesn't seem to be going well. Dr. Laura, are you with us?
Yes, I am here.
Awesome. We are just so happy to have you. Will you tell folks a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to speak and for hosting this amazing event. Oh my goodness. I think having a space like this to talk about relationship issues, especially at this time, is really commendable to you. So thank you for having me. I am a speaker, I'm a psychologist, and I'm an author of the book Marital Peace. I love couples are my jam. Like helping couples heal, rebuild trust. It's nothing that excites me more than that. So I'm excited to get into this topic.
Yes. So I love it. Couples, it's your thing, it's your jam. Did y'all hear she's even an author? Tell us the name of that book again.
It's called Marital Peace, and what happened was I saw a lot of divorce in my family. I mean, when I say a lot of divorce, everybody in my family is divorced. My parents, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings, everybody's divorced. And so when I was growing up, the only relationships that I saw was the Cosbys. And so I felt like I wanted to just understand what it took to build a happy, healthy, loving relationship. And so when I got to graduate school, I studied relationship satisfaction and I did my dissertation on marital satisfaction. And so then I was like, you know what, let me not just put this on the shelf as the dissertation, but let me put it in a manual. And so I found that there are certain things that couples do that get it right, that are excited to come home. And so I put that into Marital Peace.
Awesome. You found it was not just a myth, a TV show. It can really happen. You connected the dots and now you help other people do the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. How many of you out there can really resonate with that? That maybe in your family, you don't see this abundance of healthy marriages and, people being able to work through disagreements well. Maybe you don't talk about anything that's going on in the household. Maybe it's real loud and it gets chaotic. So I know I can relate to that absolutely, of not having those models of what is this supposed to look like, but then wanting that for myself and wanting to help other people get there. So I totally get that.
Yeah, I think we need to have more spaces like this that you have created to be able to talk about some of these key issues that couples are really struggling with and need support. And sometimes you don't have any model. Like there was no model growing up on how to communicate, how to resolve conflict, how to just stay married, you know? And so that's one of the things that I've really committed my life's work to, is helping couples to be able to stay together when the world, life, their career is pulling them apart.
Yeah, that's powerful. That is so powerful. So, what are you seeing with the couples that you work with, those who have been avoiding the issues and now it's right in their faces because you can't avoid each other now, right? So, what are
Mhm.
you seeing the outcome is of all of that soup together?
All of that soup. I like the way that you put that. One of the issues, because I do couples therapy like every single week. Every single week, I'm working with couples, helping them to be able to rebuild trust, enhance intimacy. And so, some of the issues that I see as a couples therapist is you're having to deal with somebody on a much more like just every single day 24/7, when normally you have these like breaks, right? Like you have 8 hours where you're at work, some people 10, 12 hours a day they're at work, and now they're dealing with this person every day. And so it's starting to reveal to them issues and conflict more so now than ever. Some of the other issues I see is that couples aren't getting any respite. Like there's no break, there's no time of just like being to themselves. You know, we need some moments of just self-care. Otherwise, we don't have anything to give to anybody else. So those are some of the main issues that I see: more conflict, having to navigate, not having a break, not no dating. And so couples are missing being able to go out and go to a show, a comedy show, or just to the movies, you know, getting out of the house.
Absolutely. And I know those are small things, but they have made a tremendous impact.
Want somebody
I mean,
say
a tremendous impact. Like you said, no respite. And I love how you said, you can't pour into your relationship well if you're not able to do that for yourself,
that.
right? So that is so
Right.
critical. Absolutely. It's bringing these issues where we don't have
Mm-hmm.
that time to woosah before we go and talk to our spouse, our partner. Um, I think it's putting us in positions where we're just reacting in the heat of the moment. We're not taking a walk. We're not going out with friends. We're not doing what we need to do to be in a
Exactly.
good space.
Yeah, and I think that's so important that we find these ways that we can renew our cup, where we can refuel. Otherwise, like it's gonna be hard to teach the kids to print out the lesson plans, to cook dinner. It's gonna be hard to show up in the way that you want to show up in your marriage if you yourself are depleted. And so that's why I think that couples having tools like this and strategies on how to communicate, how to take time for themselves, how to even communicate when I need a break. You
That's
know, how
good.
to
That's good.
hear it and receive it.
For you all at home, I want you to think about this. Do you tell your partner, I need a minute? I love you. I know this issue is important to you, but I just need a minute. Do you communicate that? That's really good.
Yeah.
That is really good. So, really, you broke down many challenges, right? We don't have the respite like we used
Mm-hmm.
to, where we could pour into ourselves as easily. We have to be really innovative at this point. Really innovative.
Really innovative. One of the things, I love to go to church, and so church is where I like talk to my church family. You know, we get real in the marriage ministry at my church, and so I was missing that, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I just miss just having other wives to just talk to about life. And so at my house, we created church at home, where we were like, I'll sing a song, and then my stepdad will lead the prayer, and we'll like, so we're creating these like innovative ways where we can still connect on a spiritual level, even though we can't go into a physical space. And so that's just one example, but I think there are tons of ways that you can be innovative, like you said, and still be able to get some relief. Like I live on a river, and so going out and just being on the river, having a picnic, listening to music, playing cards, like we got real creative.
Absolutely. So we want to give you a charge early in the summit. Figure out what it is you're going to do at home to have your respite, your time of respite. Do not hold it in when you know you've had too much of a conversation with your mate. Let them know you need a minute. You'll come back to it, but you just need a minute. This is good early. This is good early. So some of the things you mentioned, you're seeing more conflict because we're in each other's spaces often. From the top of the day to the bottom of the night.
All day long. It's a lot.
And then the unresolved issues that have been lingering like really close in our faces. I'm hearing a lot of half of couples questioning why, like, wow, I'm really not happy.
Yeah, like sometimes couples aren't dealing with their issues, and it's not until it's in your face, like, I'm not happy. Like being with you get on my nerves, like all the time. Like it's not until this moment that for some couples, they don't even realize that they've lost the passion. They haven't had sex in weeks and months. And so now where you are with that person all of the time, it may start to highlight some of the conflict, some of the distance that has grown now in the relationship now more than ever.
Yes. And that it can take your breath away, especially if we do the comparison game and we see on social media other people posting how it's so wonderful to be home with their spouse all day long. What a stark difference if that is not your experience. And like you said, throw in not dating. Not having those intentional moments of time where you are connecting, where you are lighting the spark. It can feel really dry.
Yeah, and I love that you talked about social media, because a lot of times we compare our insides to somebody else's outside. So on the outside, everybody looks great. They're living their best life. But on the inside, you don't know what's really going on in their house. And sometimes I think, we can wear a mask of like, everything is great. Everything is amazing. Someone asks you how you're doing. Fine, I'm good. We're living our best life. But in reality, you like want to go off every other minute. Like y'all sleeping in separate bedrooms. And so I think having a space like this to be able to just really talk about like what's going on, get some tools and strategies on what do I do about it? How do I just really unload some of what's happening in a way that's going to bring healing? Like, I think that is so crucial.
Absolutely. It's plenty of people faking it. And so if you are here, you are plugged in, you are ready for the real, you want to get those strategies that's going to be helpful. So let's get into it. So with what should we be concerned about? What would you say are signs of a marriage heading towards divorce? Or sometimes people don't get divorced. Do you know those couples that the love has been gone for a long time, but they're still together?
Yes.
So what would be our, we really need to do something and act now signs?
I'm a researcher at heart. Like at heart, I'm a researcher. So I like to look at the research on like predictors of divorce. And there are 4 main predictors of divorce. John Gottman, he is a relationship researcher, and he did longitudinal studies, which is studies that follow people over years. And he found that there are 4 main predictors of divorce. And so one of them is criticism. Criticism is when you attack the core of who your partner is. So it's not that you don't put the dishes away. No, you're a lazy person. So that's criticism. The other one is defensiveness. So your partner comes to you and He says, you've been nagging me all the time and that's really hard. And instead of saying, you know what, I can't work on my communication. Instead of saying that, we get defensive. Well, I wouldn't nag you if you would do what you're supposed to do. So that's defensiveness.
I thought that was keeping it real, Dr. Laura. Like, sometimes you got to tell them, they need to know.
And so we do need to keep it real, but at the same time, I think delivery is so important. So sometimes it's not necessarily about the message, but it's about the way that the message is delivered. And if it's delivered in a way that makes the other person defensive, then what's the point? They're not even hearing you. And so one of the things that I tell my couples in the After I Do Academy is there are certain words that are trigger words. One of the trigger words are always and never. Think about when you hear this word where you always late and you never do the dishes. Immediately it makes you like, well, let me tell you what I would wash the dishes more if you didn't do this. And so that's defensiveness. And so just take always and never just right out of your vocabulary, because as soon as you use those words, it's going to make your partner defensive. And when they're defensive, they're not going to be listening to you. Yeah. So that's the second one, is defensiveness. And then the third one is contempt. Now, contempt is real subtle, y'all. Contempt is real subtle. And sometimes people feel like, well, what's the big deal? Contempt is self-righteous indignation, sarcasm, hostile humor. And so this could look like as subtle as, this again, that's contempt. And so we want to be mindful of that one, because that's one of the main predictors of divorce is contempt. Now, the fourth one is stonewalling. And stonewalling is when you just withdraw from all communication. And sometimes people can withdraw and still be physically present. So he's home every night. Y'all might even be sleeping in the same bedroom, but you're not talking to each other. You ask your partner a question, how you doing? Fine. What happened with you today? Nothing. Just one word answers. Or sometimes people withdraw physically, like walking out the door. I'm done with this conversation. I don't want to hear this anymore. And so that's stonewalling. Those are the four main predictors of divorce.
Okay, so if this is happening pretty commonly in disagreements, you need to be aware this is a path that you do not want to continue. We need to stop, not pass go. So what do we do? Because a lot of this is that I like to call justified rage. Like, if you knew what they did, or if you knew how hard I've been working and have not felt appreciated, it just comes out how it is. So what should you do if you're just so fed up, but you're noticing, yeah, these signs are happening when we're disagreeing?
One of the things that you have to do is empathize. And empathy sometimes is challenging, because empathy requires for me to step out of my shoes and step into my partner's shoes. And so what that looks like is being willing to see things from their perspective. Being willing to see that, maybe there is another way of looking at this besides the way that I'm looking at it. And so empathy could be, like, I know it's hard for you, babe. It's hard for both of us. We're trying to raise these children and we can't leave the house, and, we're trying to do these lesson plans, and I know you're working at the same time. Like, so empathize, step into their shoes, leave your shoes for a moment. I'm not saying never, like, express your concerns, but leave your shoes for a moment and step into their shoes. Not just in your mind, but also verbally articulate that understanding to your partner. Like, I get it. Validate them. Maybe you can't validate every single thing that they've done wrong, but maybe you could say, like, all right, I get how stressful this has been. I know you're doing your best to provide for our family. I know it's been stressful for you too. So some validation.
This is so key, and probably one of the hardest things that you'll do. If you are dissatisfied and frustrated, it will probably take a lot of energy and intention to get out of yourself and put yourself in their shoes and empathize with what it must be like for them. So I think this is why when we were talking about that respite time, being innovative about what do you do for yourself is so important. If you skip that step, I don't know if it's gonna happen for you.
It is not going to happen. If you're not taking care of yourself, like, you can't, like, you don't have the capacity, you don't have the energy to be able to take care of anyone else. I fly a lot, I travel a lot, and one of the things that I always hear every time I travel is put the air mask on yourself first before you try to help a woman or child, because you can't be any good to anybody else if you're passed out, because you're trying to do everything for everybody else. You're trying to make sure your mama good, trying to make sure the kids good, trying to make sure everybody is good. Meanwhile, like, you're depleted. And so I love that we talked about that self-care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just have to revisit what those really, really important nuggets you were given about what are those signs we're looking out for. So you said criticism, criticism. And we love Gottman. He has a great 5-to-1 rule too. If you're wondering, well, I mean, I give constructive criticism. If that's you.
Right.
His rule is
letting them know.
His rule is 5-to-1. For every criticism, it takes 5 positive interactions to counter that.
Yeah.
How balanced are you with your little criticisms? How balanced are you? Then you said defensiveness. Do you own your stuff? Or do you say, well, the other day you you know, how well do you handle that during disagreements? And then you mentioned contempt, which, like you said, can be so subtle. It can be how you scrunch your face and roll your eyes.
That's right. It can be subtle. You can feel like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. What's the problem? Why are you so sensitive?
What's the problem? Because in essence, it's saying there's not something wrong with what they did, but there's something wrong with them. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So it just hits your partner to the core. And as hard knocks as this world is, as this life is, when we come home, we need safety.
Yeah, that is so important. Like, a safe place to land, a place where you could come home and not feel judged, have unconditional love. Like, you fight through so much in this world. Just leaving the house, we literally put our life at risk leaving the house right now. And so let home be that peaceful place.
I felt that. Are y'all feeling that? So the last one you mentioned, the last really important gem is stonewalling. So really getting to where the conversation is overwhelming and you just shutting down, or your partner is just shutting down, not talking about what's going on. So that makes me think, if you're not talking about what's going on, your partner doesn't know what you need. They don't know the degree that things are bothering you. They don't feel connected to you. It's the silent killer.
Yeah,
silent killer.
It's the silent killer. And sometimes people stonewall because they feel flooded. They feel like this conversation isn't going anywhere. You're not listening to me. You don't understand me. And there's some gender differences associated with these 4. We tend to see that men are more likely to stonewall. And so we have to make sure that we have protective strategies, coping skills on how to manage when you feel flooded. So whether that is doing prayer, meditation, taking a hot bath, playing basketball, walking outside, like doing something, taking a run that just helps you recenter yourself. I think that helps with stonewalling. And then making sure that you come back, because you might need to walk away. You might need a moment, 20 minutes, 2 hours. You might need a moment to walk away. But just making sure that you come back, because if you just walk away, then your partner is going to feel abandoned, like they don't matter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's key. Because if what's happening is you're feeling overwhelmed, not that you don't like your partner or you want them to feel abandoned, it's important to say, hey, I need a minute. And like you mentioned, revisiting that conversation for that trust. So these are just some amazing nuggets. And I think to sum up this part of the segment, humble pie tastes good. Humble
Mm-hmm.
pie tastes good. It might be hard going down, but it's good for your marriage. It's good for your relationship.
And I know even me myself, like I've been with my husband for 17 years, and sometimes it's hard for me to say sorry. Sometimes it's hard for me to say, all right, I was wrong, babe. That didn't come out the right way. I apologize. But you're so right. Humble pie is a good thing because it's better to acknowledge, like, I got that wrong, than to just be sitting in the house, y'all not talking, tension is growing. For what? You know, life is short. And we're seeing that now more than ever. People are literally dying. And you don't want the last moments to be, I said something, or I'm not talking to my mate. Like when you really wrap your mind around that, how short life is, we got to mend these wounds.
Wow. That's incredible. I want you all to take that with you. Um, Not taking for granted how much time we have, not taking for granted that you have a partner that loves you. So thank you for those words. That was really well said.
My pleasure.
Any other nuggets as far as mistakes that we should avoid?
Yeah, so there is this concept that, like, in the last 10 years, I've been working with couples for a while, and there's this concept called negative sentiment override. And what negative sentiment override is like everything you say gets on my nerves. You just walk in the room, and I'm just like, oh, you just breathe. Why you breathe like that? Like, couples can get to a point sometimes when there's a lot of conflict where they don't like anything about each other.
Yeah.
And so I want us to be mindful of that because it can color your own perception. Like you could forget that you love this person. You could forget that they're really a good person. And so that's why mindset is so important. You know, we have to renew our mind every single day. Because if we let our mind run rampant, we can tell ourselves things that's not even true. Like we can be convinced that, you know, that's just a no good joker. Like we can be convinced of things that are happening in this moment that are not even representative of who your spouse is. Maybe they just stressed. Maybe they're just going through a difficult time. Maybe this is a season that they're going to overcome. But sometimes I see couples making a lifetime decision based on a temporary situation. And so that's one thing I would say is just be mindful of that negative sentiment override.
Oh, that's really good. Now, if you're watching, I want you to do a check-in with yourself. Is that where your relationship is right now? Does it seem like just them breathing gets on your nerves? Does it seem like, they walk through the house looking crazy, this expression on their face? Do you automatically assume they're upset with you? Right? We make these assumptions. And I love what you said. We really need to be looking for what are those good things that's still happening in the relationship. We need to intentionally look for that on a daily basis, because if we're in that negative override with I'm getting it all twisted, negative sentiment override mode,
Got it.
all we can see are the landmines. We can't see the good stuff. So that's so good. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. Thank you. And guys, we want you to talk back to us. Like, we don't want this to be a monologue. You are on this, like, you're on this Zoom, and this is the opportunity to ask your questions, to share any challenges that you are facing. You have two couples therapists that are here to support you. And so I definitely want to hear from you guys.
Absolutely. So as Dr. Laura said, jot your questions down in the chat. Let us know what questions you have. Let us know what resonates with you with what we're discussing tonight, because this is juicy. So I know y'all getting all these gems in. So as they're putting their questions in the chat, I want you to just talk about that person that is like, I hear what y'all are saying. This all sounds good and well, but I think I'm just too mad. I think I'm just too mad to even try to do these things because I feel like I've been trying really hard. What do you say to that person that's at that space?
One of the things that I would say is state your feelings in a way that expresses a positive need. So one of the things that I tell my couples in the After I Do Academy is I say, use this statement: when X happens, I feel Y, I'd like Z. So for example, when I come into the house and, I've been working all day and I see that the dishes are piled to the ceiling, I start to feel stressed and overwhelmed. Would it be okay if you could wash the dishes twice a week? So I ain't say you lazy, you never wash the dishes, because if I would have said that, then my partner's gonna get defensive, probably counterattack, probably tell me what I'm not doing. And so instead, I just focus on, this is the feeling that I had. I focus on something specific. I'm not bringing up the whole kitchen sink. Sometimes as a couples therapist, sometimes I see couples will dig all the way back to last year, 2 years ago, and bring up all these different things, but stay focused on the present. And then the other thing, make a specific request, not a demand. You need to do this, but a request, right? Because we can't demand anything of another grown person. We can't change a grown person, but we can make a request that expresses a positive need. A positive need is, if we could go out on a date and just go for a walk, that would mean so much to me. If we could just have sex sometimes. I miss you being close to me. Like, I miss the intimacy we used to have. We done had these kids, and I can't remember the last time we had intimacy. I miss that. And so focus on a positive need. Avoid you statements. As soon as you start with, you did this and you did that, immediately wall goes up and they're not hearing you. And so I think sometimes couples do subtle things in their communication that make it hard for their partner to hear them. And so instead, focus on a specific need. Share your feelings. Share your vulnerable feelings. Be willing to share that with your partner. And then make a request that expresses a positive need.
Awesome. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. So that's what really struck me with what you're saying, the vulnerability piece of this, because to not have your wall up, to not demand, to not blame, but to say, this is what it feels like for me, and would you be willing to? That is a level of vulnerability that we have to really pursue and grow to be okay with expressing. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. And then it was something else. When you were talking about the blame, don't come at you. Some of us are in these kind of parent-child relationship dynamics. It's not sexy if you feel like you with your mama or your dad.
Somebody say that thing. It is not a turn on. If you used to your mate being your parent and telling you what to do and what you do wrong all the time, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna be hard for them to be fireworks in the bedroom. And so I think couples have, I love what you said about the 5-to-1 ratio, because sometimes a person might feel like, oh, I did one good thing, now that just miraculously erases everything else. And so really make those deposits into your relationship by sharing gratitude, sharing appreciation with one another. Like, babe, I appreciate that you're trying. I appreciate that you showed up to this relationship summit with me. That meant so much to me. I appreciate that you are willing to stick this thing out with me. I appreciate that we're in this quarantine together, because I can't imagine being by myself going through this quarantine. And so just showing appreciation will help kind of shift some of those dynamics of that parent-child relationship.
This is spot on. Spot on. I love showing appreciation. When I'm working with couples, that's a tender spot. Cause I don't want to throw a parade just because they did one thing right and then they think that's all they have to do. But what do we end up doing? Are we more likely to do things that's out of our comfort zone if they're acknowledged, if
Mm-hmm.
appreciated? So this really is a shift in how we think. It's not about okaying just doing a little and the things that are insufficient. It's about cheering on what we know we really want from our partner, showing that
Mm-hmm.
appreciation and effort. And then
That is
something
so
else.
right.
We need to appreciate that we are not alone during the quarantine. Now I also see some single people, and some of them would love to trade places.
For real, for real. Like while we over here taking our partners for granted, like there are people who are alone during this quarantine and they don't have anybody to lean on. They don't have anybody to talk to. The depth of loneliness that is existing now in our world, like people are committing suicide. They're ending their life because of loneliness during this time. And so I think just show some appreciation and that'll really, really go a long way. What gets continued is reinforced. So if you are reinforcing something, like reinforce what you want to be continued. If your partner is trying, maybe you ain't wash the clothes exactly how you wanted to, or fold them exactly how you wanted to, or cook the dinner the exact way, but maybe they just put forth the effort to buy the groceries. Reinforce that. Thank you so much, babe, for bringing in these groceries. Because Lord knows I did not want to go to the grocery store. Like whatever it is, just show some verbal acknowledgement when you see them trying. If you want it to continue, otherwise, if they try and they're like, well, it don't matter what I do. It don't matter if I put forth effort now. I'm still gonna get criticized. Then people tend to like stop trying as much. So definitely show gratitude and appreciation. It'll go a long way in your relationship.
I love that example. Um, I hear couples that say, yeah, I show my appreciation. I say thank you for folding those clothes, but you know what you really should have done? It's a thank you, but
Right. And that just ruined the whole thank you. Thank you, but you ain't fold them the right way. You know, you wash the clothes how you supposed to wash the clothes. Like it just ruined the whole thank you. They ain't even here to thank you because it's wrapped in criticism.
wrapped in criticism, which is another one of the signs you mentioned earlier.
That's right. That's
And a
right.
part of that issue is sometimes we have a difficult time letting go of control.
Ooh, you are saying something.
Yeah, we don't
Yes.
want to do it all, but we don't want to let go of control either.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's big.
if you're stuck, if you hear these gems, but you're really stuck because you know you have the control issue, or you're not ready to let your guard down and be vulnerable, or you just don't, I don't know, there's something blocking, impeding in the way you haven't developed how you can take care of yourself during the pandemic so that you can pour into your relationship, you might need some additional help. It might be
Mm-hmm.
time to start being on the struggle bus by yourself. So with that being said, Dr. Laura, I want you guys to put some questions in the chat, but Dr. Laura, I want you to let folks know about programs you've got coming up. Definitely remind them about your book and how they can connect with you, because we want to make sure these relationships are stronger after the pandemic is done.
Yeah, so my program is called, I just put it in the chat. You could go to bit.ly/after I do academy. I wanted couples to be able to get support through having a Q&A session where you're able to speak to a couples therapist, get your question answered. And then also I do expert training. So I've done probably 1,000 workshops all around the country and internationally. And I found that there are certain things that couples struggle with, like intimacy, infidelity, communication. And so what I did was I put an expert training inside the After I Do Academy every single month. So we have trainings on how to rebuild trust, how to have better intimacy, because I think that divorce is expensive. You know, like to just the cost of divorce is expensive. It's been researched that the average cost of a divorce is $10,000. Like raising your children in separate homes, the impact of having to get an attorney and divide up all your stuff, not to mention the emotional cost. And so I think if you can get some strategy, a blueprint on how you can get back to loving each other again, how to stop fussing and fighting, you know, that can make a huge difference. And every week when I'm working with couples in the After I Do Academy, I see couples who were on the brink of divorce. Some couples who they were like, Dr. Lewis, I had found an attorney. I was ready to give up. And now I'll see them on the video and they're sitting a little closer together. The husband might put his hand on his wife's shoulder. And those moments excite me. It excites me because this is not just something that I do. This is like my life's work, something that I'm so passionate about, because I believe that if you can transform a marriage, you can transform a community. And right now, we're seeing couples that are really struggling, and on average, couples wait 5 to 7 years before they ever even get help. And it's too late sometimes. Sometimes so much resentment has built up that it's hard to get past that. And so that's the reason why I created the After I Do Academy, because I know for myself, I share with you guys some of my story of just seeing so much divorce in my family. And now me and my husband for over 17 years, you know, it's not always peaches and cream. And so I like to keep it real in the After I Do Academy and talk about like the real journey of being able to build a relationship to last a lifetime. So you guys can check out the link there. It's bit.ly /After I Do Academy.
Yes. So I love that you're going to give so much beyond today. Today is only the appetizer, if you can believe that. You have much more to provide in terms of, like you said, working on intimacy, communication, and what was some of the other?
Trust. That's the one of the top reasons why couples separate, is because one person cheated, and then there's a feeling of, how we gonna get past this? Like, how I'm going to be able to trust you again? And so I've seen couples who have dealt with multiple affairs and they've been able to come back on the other side to the point where their relationship is even better. But that doesn't just happen. Like, the relationship doesn't just improve, but there's some key strategies. There's a blueprint that goes into being able to work through the issues around trust, being able to have conversations in a healing oriented way. And so that's what I put into the After I Do Academy.
You guys do not want to miss out on that. Be sure that you connect with Dr. Laura by going to bit.ly After I Do Academy. It's in the chat. Copy and paste that, put it in your pocket. So we are so happy that you have given so many